Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about Hard Eyes on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It is your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Seattle, Washington. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we are dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And we're going to unpack all the goriest details of 2025's Hard Eyes in the hopes that a romantic partner's untimely end. I'm going to take that again. And the I take one fucking week off and the wheels fall off immediately. And we're going to unpack all the goriest details of 2025's Hard Eyes in the hopes that a hopeless romantic's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there is only one person I trust to lure someone to a desiccated church in the middle of a very thriving city. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
Well, you got to have the location. You can't just be making the big reveal at just any old place.
Yes. That is the thing that what I enjoy. Let's just get into it. Okay. Now, we had originally scheduled this movie way back in February during its premiere. But because of the new movies that we had kind of slated and what we were doing in terms of After Dark, which is our February theme month, this just got unslotted as a result of that. Now, I still saw it at the time that I was going to see it, and Becky wanted to come along. And when I did it, I immediately texted you and I said, I really regret that we're not immediately talking about this, because I enjoyed it that much. At that moment, it was like my favorite horror movie. Of course, that would be unseated by Sinners, which I think is transcendent on many respects. But to date, in a year which I've liked a lot of horror movies, this currently remains my solid number 2.
Yeah, I actually only just watched this maybe a week ago or so, because it's now on Netflix.
Right. Yeah.
And I had a good time with it. I thought it was a surprisingly. I mean, I wasn't surprised because you said it was good. And we generally tend to be on the same page with these things. But you know, I found it very charming.
Yes, I think that's the one thing that they couldn't quite fully encapsulate in the trailer. When you reduce this down to 2.5 minutes, they're going to really focus on the slasher elements of this. And I should note, I love the slasher elements of it. But I think where the charm lies, where the real secret sauce of this is that it is both a genuine, well-written, well-performed, well-directed rom-com that is also a well-written, well-performed, well-directed slasher movie. That is a tightrope walk that absolutely very few people are able to walk. And it's even rarer considering we had just come off, a month or so ago, talking about horror comedies, some of which worked really, really well, and some of which failed spectacularly. This is both not only a rom, but a com and a slasher. It works in all three of those fucking areas. And I just don't think that is something that just anyone can accomplish.
Well, it's that, and also it is a gentle parody of romantic comedies and a gentle parody of slasher movies, made by people who genuinely enjoy both of those genres of movies.
Exactly.
There never at any point did I get a sense of, well, everybody knows these things are stupid, so we're going to make them look as stupid as possible.
Again, Gina, you're like a fucking assassin. You lined up a shot and you completely nailed it. That is absolutely what makes this so fantastic. And it's not one particular area. I think everyone is on point to make this work, but it kind of has to start with concept and page. And that's where you get to 2 writers and a director, but we'll get to him. But from the writing side, I think you've got a pair of guys who really have found their way into making a type of slasher that's always a weird hybrid. So you start with Christopher Landon. So his big splash initially is Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which I think is fine. It's fun, but it's a signature Gina Radcliffe, it's fine trademark there. When he gets to Happy Death Day, then he's fucking cooking with hot grease. Because Happy Death Day is just like a minor miracle. Let's take the time, loop concept, put a slasher on that, and now your final girl is killed every 2.5 to 5 minutes. And he makes a movie out of that. And not only that, but it really relies on a fantastic lead performance. He follows that up with Happy Death Day to You. And I really enjoy it. But I think it's one of those things that's going to take that long haul Halloween 3, Back to the Future 2 route to people truly appreciating what it was. Because it does stray from the slasher movie thing. And I think that is core to what makes the first one work. That being said, for its own movie, I really, really enjoy it. And then you get to Freaky, which I think that people really tend to forget because it came out in the pandemic and we were all just like, what is fucking time? That movie is so much better than people really give it the credit for. And it's yet another movie that proves that A, Landon loves slasher movies, and 2, he knows how to blend genres, and that's when he's combined with Michael Kennedy, who's the writer on that movie. And then you get a lot more of the camp flavor infused into that. And between Michael Kennedy and Landon, I think they just have the ability to make unlikely genres mesh together in a really enjoyable way. And then the capper on this one is Josh Ruben, former guest of this very podcast. That's right. If you avoided us talking about a horror TV show, which we talked about Evil Did I Do That from ABC, Family Matters. I did a speed run of an episode with Josh Ruben, who was kind enough to that. But he was supposed to be back on the show to talk about Orca. You know why he couldn't? He was making this fucking movie.
And you know what? That our loss is the world's gain.
Truly, it was well worth it. Hopefully one day we will get Josh back on the show. But Josh Ruben's previous movies to this also evoke his very ingrained love of genre and an ability to make something both scary and funny. Scare Me is a locked black box, Tales from the Crypt almost of scary stories. You've got 3 characters telling each other stories. It is a crackerjack little gem of a movie. He graduates to Werewolves Within, one of the rare, can you make this video game work? And he makes it work because he casts it with a bunch of very funny fucking people saying very funny lines, and he directs the hell out of it. And I would say Hard Eyes is an escalation from those 2 previous movies. Love them as much as I do. Hard Eyes really feels like such a competent, confident, well-manipulated story. And it's a well-directed rom-com and a well-directed slasher on top. Just being able to combine those fucking things really says something about a filmmaker.
Right. I mean, it's funny. I compare this in a way to when I watched Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar.
Okay, sure.
And in that
another movie I love, yes.
The opening music immediately pulled me into it. In Barb and Star, it was the song "Guilty" by Barbra Streisand, and it was like a chubby little Asian boy on a bicycle singing it to him, singing it out loud with all of his heart and soul. And in this one, it is the dreadful one-hit wonder from, I believe, the early aughts, possibly the late 90s, but it called Amazing. And as soon as the movie opened with that, I'm like, okay, I'm invested in whatever happens in this movie. And then it turns out to be in movie. It is the song that is being played by during a very heavily choreographed marriage proposal.
Yes, and it's a perfect sort of setup of the stakes of this in that. We have this couple, they're very manufactured. She obviously is very image oriented. He obviously wants to please her, but a lot of his pride is wrapped up in making her happy, which seems to be an impossible task, which makes him himself being happy an impossible task. And it's revealed in layers. You're peeling an onion on these two people in this short sketch. And that's where it really helps to have someone who has improv skills, who knows a game of a particular comedy scene, and writers who know how to create distinct characters who reveal themselves without big splashy moments. Every single line they have tells you a little bit more about Patrick and Adeline. And what you see is these aren't great people.
No.
But this isn't a movie that falls into the trap of having unlikable person after unlikable person show up to be killed. It really does, after this opening sequence, which I want to get into, I don't want to gloss over it, but really centers on likable people from this moment on, which is harder and harder to do in slasher movies these days.
Very true. Yeah, because at this point, audiences are expecting, set them up, knock them down.
Yes, and to a degree, this doesn't provide that with you, but because it is so well choreographed, because these sequences are very well thought out, they set up things, they pay off things, they demonstrate an environment, and then they use that environment to instill fear or comedy. It's really people knowing how to build and photograph a well-timed sequence to evoke an emotional reaction out of you. And yes, that sounds very basic, but how many movies have we both encountered just from the start of the year that fail to do even that?
Right, exactly.
So our cold open victims are Patrick and Adeline. They have planned for everything. In many respects, they are the perfect reflections of our killer. How far into this do we get before we just talk spoilers? Because we've already told people we like the fuck out of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's came out in February. It's on Netflix. You can stop right now and go watch it and come back.
Watch the fuck out of it. Highest recommendation. This is well worth your time.
It's a quick and breezy 90 minutes.
Yes, it is in and out, and it doesn't have any fat on it at all. It's so fucking enjoyable. Even that non-horror loving partner of yours will probably enjoy it because of the rom-com element. So getting back to Patrick and Adeline, they, in many ways, are a light reflection to a certain degree of our killers, who are so wrapped up in themselves and their needs and their wants and their quote unquote kink that they're willing to do anything for themselves and for each other, but really for themselves. And Patrick and Adeline are exactly that, just in a non-homicidal way.
Well, maybe.
That we know of. She looks
pretty pissed initially when she bites into that. It was like a cupcake or something, and he has the
strawberry.
Strawberry, and he's got the ring hidden in it. Like, you can see a little flash of murder in her eyes.
There is a little bit of body horror to the strawberry sequence, and then it is so masticated by the time it comes out that every time she manipulates the ring or touches it or touches her hands, the Foley guy goes, do you got anything that's wet? Bring me something wet.
How about some chewing tobacco? Just spit a wad of chewing tobacco in my hand.
My apology to whoever this Foley artist is. You don't probably sound like this, but in my mind, this is what you sound like. So take it. everything has to be just so, because it can't just be perfect emotionally. It has to be Instagram perfect. And I think we all know or have encountered people who have that Instagram perfect mindset, and bully to them, because sometimes people make money doing that. But it also feels like an impossible standard, a prison that you have designed for yourself.
Well, yeah, and I think to a certain extent, that's a little bit of what the movie is about. In that this killer or killers, as is revealed, selects couple. It targets couples on Valentine's Day, and there seems to be a solution to avoid the hard eyes killer from hurting you and your partner, and that is to not make an ostentatious display of your relationship
on Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day,
you got 364 on a leap year, 365 days, which you can be as ostentatious as fuck. But if it's going to be on Valentine's Day and they pick your city, you have to be prepared for the results of that. And that is, again, one of those things that feels like, if you got a shark movie, the solution, get the fuck out of the water. Here, the solution is do not go out on a date on Valentine's Day. But some people absolutely just have to have that validation.
Right. They have, you can't not go out on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it's inherently wrong and bad to not do this.
If your relationship, exists in a forest, does anybody hear it?
Exactly. It's where projection of perfection means more than the individual moments or words or emotions you might have. It just simply has to be seen in order for it to mean anything. One of my favorite, this whole movie has a ton of fantastic little comedy character moments. But in particular, I love when Adeline mouths the words of the proposal she's obviously written for Patrick.
It is framed as if she is not expecting this proposal, which she obviously has designed the whole thing from like the music choice, up to the when the ring is presented.
Yes,
whereas his little variation was putting it in the strawberry, which she is pissed about.
She has a rule that he has crossed the line.
Right, because she told him not to do that.
And the weird broom columns of compressed flowers, the time of day, the fact that they have a photographer hidden in the woods in order to capture this.
But also, no one else is there.
Right.
So this is, as you say, this is for the gram.
Yeah. Yes. This is not for anyone else other than an audience who will see it in the way they wish it to be seen.
And you know that if Adelaide didn't get squashed in a grape presser, that she the next scene would have been her like frantically filtering these pictures.
Right. Yes. Running it through every beauty filter possible, asking when can I get the raw files, not trusting this other guy with the editing process. You can see where this was going if the Hard Eyes Killer hadn't come in and stabbed the photo guy through the lens of his camera into his eyeball, which instantly starts us out with a fucking get bunked. The first kill, Gina, goes get bunked. That's how good this fucking movie is.
It's like it was made for us.
I think this movie is very much made for us. I don't know. Listen. Not intentionally. I do not believe in any stretch of the imagination. I know Josh has been on the show and everything, but he had never fucking heard of this thing. I just reached out and said, would you like to do it? And he said, sure. And he was on. And I know that I'm tangential to Michael Kennedy in that we have followed one another on social media. He doesn't know me from fucking Adam. And certainly Christopher Landon doesn't. So, but I do feel the mentality of a lot of the stuff that happens in this film, and certainly the reference points that are occurring, are things we have long argued for in the 9 years of this podcast.
I feel like, I'll put it this way. I feel like that if we wrote a horror movie together, it would probably be a lot like this.
Yes, I do believe so. I think it would mash something we love with the slasher so it wouldn't simply be a slasher on itself. And I have an idea, Dana. That being said.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
We get an instant get bunked here. That's, goopy. There's a lot of goopy, drippy blood in this movie. The blood shots, is chef's kiss. And then Patrick gets an arrow to the head. And the thing that I love that has been happening for, I would say, the last 7 or 8 years is when someone gets stabbed in the head, their eyeballs go in 2 different directions.
Yes. That's always like a...
Yeah, right. Because you can tell, like, oh, that's just the body now. that whatever's happening upstairs, that's been disconnected. So I really enjoy that. But then we have this extended, abandoned winery sequence that evokes both a Friday the 13th because we have a barn of doom, and then Adeline's final moments in the grape crusher is absolutely a Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night 2 reference.
But it's also got a little touch of Final Destination to it.
Sure, yes.
Has there ever been a chase scene in a winery before?
I don't think so. And the reason is because a winery, before it's really getting to a leaves on the vine sort of situation, it's very sparse. You can see somebody from a fucking mile away. There's not a lot of places to hide with bare vines. So that's why I think it's doubly funny, because you can't really hide there. So why are you trying? But she does. It's I love that the boots that the Heart Eyes killers wear are so fucking clunky. There are times in this movie where you hear them coming from a mile away, and then times where they're a fucking ninja, which is, again, something we have seen so many times before.
Yeah, and I feel like this also might be our most elaborate mask so far. Which
yes.
I love the mask in this, and some part of me wants to know if maybe one of the writers had come up with the idea for the mask, and then sort of built the
retroactively,
built the movie around that. Like, what if we had a killer who wore something that you look like you'd wear to a rave?
But it also subtly, because of the night vision and the goggle element, also definitely evokes the minor killer mask from My Bloody Valentine. Like, there's just so much fucking thought put into all of these little layers throughout that when you take a whole bite of it, you're like, oh my God, I'm so satisfied. I'm getting everything I wanted out of this confection that's been put in front of me.
Right. I mean, you'd think that, they call him the Hard Eyes Killer, probably because that's clever, because he kills people on Valentine's Day. It's like, no, it's because his mask has light up hard eyes. Listen, it looks like something you would wear to a party.
Yes. It feels like something that they made like, oh, when Spirit Halloween stores get their hands on this will absolutely be a thing. And it should be. It's very marketable. It's very unique. And I just, this movie needs more fucking love. That's where if we had done it at the time, it would have been a celebration and everything. But I almost kind of like doing it now because more people need to be paying attention to this particular movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We have another thing that we absolutely enjoy in our slasher movie, and that is TV broadcasts telling us about a thing that's been going on forever. But because this is the first movie, but it's actually the third incident in the Hard Eyes Killer cycle, this is stealthily the third movie in the franchise.
Okay.
Because ideally, they've killed twice for 2 years in a row. So this is, in most horror franchises, this would be movie number 3.
That's true. Yeah, it's usually when we, when the first movie in a slasher, assuming it's this. I mean, I don't know if they're going to make any more of these. They do kill both killers at the end by the end, but
right, yeah.
You would think it'd be like the first kill. Like, no, this is going on. They're they do this quite a few times.
Yes, they're very, very successful at this. In this news broadcast, there are 2 things I simply want to mention. One is a Scott Wampler shout out who passed away last year. And just they name the psychologist S. Wampler. So that was lovely to see that his presence in the annals of the commentariat still lasts. And the other is this little scene they have between a couple where one guy fronts that if he confronted the Hard Eyes Killer, he'd be able to kick his ass. And then the girlfriend looks at him and goes, "Shut up, Dylan. You're afraid of the dark." And his response is, "Shh, no, I don't." That doesn't make any sense, and I love it. More of this. This is a great fucking joke. Shh, no, I don't is a fantastic response to "you're afraid of the dark." That is a Ghostbusters level, "shh, do you smell that?" level of joke. Top notch. We then meet our 2 main characters, Allie and Jane. They have a meet cute over their, in my opinion, insane iced coffee order. But it's kind of exactly what you expect. You have the banter, the instant attraction to one another. We then have a complicating factor of Jay being there because he's supposed to fix Allie's ill-timed all romance ends in death ad campaign. And we've seen this dance before, but it's the elements that they present in the order and the manner in which they do that make it all move all that much better. In the fact that it's a slasher movie and with a rom-com happening inside of it, or it's a slasher movie happening inside a rom-com. I honestly think the rom-com is the prevailing genre of the movie, and the slasher movie is simply the overarching complicating factor that brings them together and separates them in an artificial way that doesn't feel like this is a miscommunication. Their miscommunications have to do with being arrested.
It's sort of this, and you're right. I mean, one of the miraculous things about this is all of these elements sort of blend seamlessly together.
Yeah.
In which, one of the things that we oft repeated doing horror comedies is how often some of them just feel like that they're just 2 separate movies happening at the same time.
Yeah.
That this is not everything. All the elements, as absurd as the circumstances get, it just all sort of, works together really well. Like like of course, like in a typical rom-com, even though obviously they're meant to be from the beginning. They both have this weird, very specific coffee drink, and even though she's a cynical and he's a romantic, could never work out for these. So of course it's going to work out. We've seen this a million times. In most rom-coms, it would just be sort of stumbling around until they finally figure out that they're meant to be. Here, there is some element of them stumbling around trying to figure out that they are meant to be, but they're also trying to escape from a serial killer.
Right, yeah. It's such a airy, light confection that it's a kind of a miracle that it's a souffle, as it were. And as such, a souffle really takes dedication, chemistry. There's a science to it. And this feels like all that, but it also doesn't feel like it isn't heartfelt, that these characters aren't just trifles. There's a lot of there to them. And as such, you get to know them throughout this process. and feel why they might be right for one another beyond the fact that they're just dazzling to look at human beings.
Well, yeah, you've got, I don't think we mentioned the actors yet.
Not yet.
You've got Mason Gooding, who is from the newer Scream movies.
Mm-hmm.
He's delightful. He's like a big, handsome puppy dog.
He really is. Like, I'm not a tremendous fan of his father. That being said, for reasons, the internet is available, but that he doesn't have shit to do with that. So he just is so intensely fucking likable. And that is hard to pull off. There is just a rare amount of people who have that sort of, I instantly am engaged with this dude sort of way, that when you find it, you just want to scream from the heavens, why aren't you casting this guy in everything?
Yeah, I do feel like he should be a bigger star than he is right now. I really only know him from the Scream movies. I mean, I'm sure he's been in other things, but I think those are his most prominent roles.
And then Olivia Holt, kind of has like a Disney kid background to a little bit degree, but she graduates from that pretty quickly to be a Disney teen in that she was in Freeform shows.
I'm glad she's moving. I'm glad she has moved up to this.
Because she was in Cloak and Dagger and Cruel Summer, the Freeform shows. But the first time I saw her in a movie was Totally Killer, which we're not going to talk about here because I think that's one the less successful, unfortunately, versions of the slasher movie hybrid craze. I wanted they would take a whole, and I don't want to be down on it because I've heard people who have liked it and have loved it. It just did not work for me personally, and so I have no animus against it. But she's a completely different type of heroine here, and she gives off that sort of harried Meg Ryan feel, and she never comes off as too complicated in the sense of she's overworked or she's trying too hard. The same thing with Mason Gooding. They are just effervescent, very airy confections that happen to have depth to them.
Right. And their reasons for their differing opinions on romance are absolutely understandable. And I think the audience can say that they have, experience that sort of cynicism, particularly in our younger years, and particularly after a messy breakup, where romance is stupid and it's a waste of time and you're better off being alone. But then also, we all, at some point get into the lovey-dovey, it's nice to be in love kind of thing. And it's nice to be in a relationship. And neither of them seem unreasonable in their beliefs. It just, initially makes them seem a bit incompatible.
Yes. And they seem to be from opposite poles, the opposites attract sort of scenario. But when they begin to reveal over the course of the movie, when it takes these breaks to invest in these characters, you get to see those depths. I don't think we're going to come across another rom-com in this near future or even one in the past that I can think of in which both characters reveal the reasons why they personally feel overconnected or disconnected to the concept of love while a hippie couple loudly fucks behind them in a boogie van. It is so fucking well timed.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The sort of laughing at the discomfort of the situation is so me-coded that this ended up being one of my favorite scenes, because you know what? I have been in a situation where I have been not trapped, I would say, obviously, not being chased after a psychopathic killer, but in a situation where, mere feet away in another room, thankfully, not right behind us, a couple was loudly having sex, and and all you could really do is just sort of sit there and like sort of laugh about it, like, can you believe this? I can't believe this. This is so awkward.
It's just one of the most bravura scenes I have seen in a horror movie in a little while in this particular vein. It's hard. The difference between this and Sinners, obviously, is a universe away. But I will say what they have in common is that I had the best time watching both movies. They were just really great motion picture experiences.
But for different reasons. Like
yes.
Sinners was exhilarating and it was sexy and it was a little scary. Whereas, Hard Eyes was a lot of fun.
Yes. The fun is of top of mind in every decision that they make. And the added elements of the confection are how they are able to weave in the sort of romantic comedy elements of going into her home for the first time and it's a complete mess. We've seen that a million times, whether it was the guy in the romantic comedy or the girl, that doesn't much matter. But it escalates over the course of this to then her dildo being left out and establishing that dildo, her trying to hide the dildo, her successfully getting him to look the other way when she picks it up, and then her trying to subtly dispose of the dildo where he can't see it, revealing the killer. And all of a sudden, we go from rom-com to slasher movie like that. It's just, that is a work of art.
But as I said, it is a smooth transition. It doesn't feel like a jarring juxtaposition, or that we have barely developed ideas for two different movies that someone decided, well, why don't we just glom them together?
No, this really takes skill. There are jokes. Genuinely, I appreciate this shit writer jokes that play out in crackerjack timing. So that is both it being on the page, the actors knowing exactly how to deliver them in a way that doesn't feel inhibited or that they're on rails. It feels genuine to their characters, and scream level kills and scares. That is just, you can't really say that that's something that everyone else has been able to do, because if they were, they would have fucking done it already. And then on top of that, the movie has references to at least a dozen fucking slasher movies. I've named a couple of them already, but some I haven't. The Terminator, Saw, Urban Legend, Silence of the Lambs, Sorority Row, not the original, the remake, Prom Night, and Prom Night 2. And it has a soundproof studio sequence, which is straight out of Scream 2, for fuck's sake. Like, these people love this shit, and they love the rom-com shit, and they made the best version of both of those things to the point where I would be happy with one, and I would be happy with the other. But the fact that they were able to make both, that gets an applause round from me.
I think one of the most clever things is when her friend is trying to boost her up into being open to a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell that they wanted to incorporate as many references as possible. So she literally just starts rattling off, you really are, you're some kind of wonderful. Just kind of blending in just a bunch of random rom-com titles into a conversation.
It's really fucking charming to the hilt. The wattage on this thing is off the fucking charts, and that is not incidental. I'm sure there are plenty of happy accidents in terms of this movie, but it also means they started off knowing the kind of movie they wanted to make, writing jokes and dialogue that evoke these characters, that make them, come out over the course of that 90 minutes so that we really know them at the end. So the stakes are all that much higher. We care about them as we go. We're lulled into it by the charm, but by the end, you're fully invested in their well-being to the point where you genuinely wonder, are they going to get out of this thing? And it's able to do that in such a fun and unexpected way while doing all the expected things to the point where the Allie character gets a phone call and runs to the love of her life through a fucking airport. Gina?
Yeah, here's the I found on IMDb the quote from Allie's friend Monica. Hey, Allie,
Sure.
Allie, listen to me. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to have someone love you for the beautiful neurotic mess that you are. I mean, you can be so clueless sometimes. It's one of the 10 things I hate about you, honestly. You can't let Jay go off to his best friend's wedding and hook up with a bunch of bridesmaids and move to Notting Hill. No, this is love, mama. Some kind of wonderful, crazy, stupid love, actually. Like that's
And-
that both works because it sounds it works. And it's a joke that works in 3 ways.
Yeah.
It works because it's obviously referencing rattling off just a bunch of rom-com titles. It also sounds like something you'd hear someone say in a rom-com. It's parodying this sort of gassing the best friend gassing up the main character to go out there and get that love that you want, and yet it also sounds like like a normal pep talk you would give someone too. So it just manages to work in a number of different ways.
Yeah, Gigi Zimbardo plays the best friend Monica, and holy shit, I want to see her in everything too. This movie is pretty well cast when it comes to why aren't I seeing these people all the fucking time? I mean, I'm a giant Michaela Watkins person. She just does not take a lot of gas for her engine to actually roar. And in the 3 or so scenes that she has in this, she is a monster. She is an absolute fucking comedy monster in these little segments that she has. You don't have to have 30 boss from hell moments for her to get across the point of her character. The movie also knows how much you need of somebody and when it's okay to go, okay, you got the point.
Exactly.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
The 2 people we really haven't mentioned here so far are detectives Hobbs and Shaw. No, not those ones. The other ones. Played by Final Destination and Chucky's Devin Saba and the Fast and Furious alum Jordan Brewster. When Olivia Holt, when they introduce themselves to Olivia Holt, the reaction from both of them is another funny joke, because obviously Jordana Brewster is a part of that franchise. So her response is, haven't heard of it. And Devin Sawa's is, I haven't watched that one. They managed to deliver both jokes with space in between, but also overlapping one another in a way that builds on the joke. Again, there's just there's a trust, and it's on the page, and the way everyone's able to communicate these jokes that makes this fucker sing. And that is a rare goddamn bird, right? Like, as much as I loved Companion, that was very plotty. There was lots of character moments in there and tons of interesting things. But it was not what I would call a light as air confection. And this manages to do that.
Yeah, no, it really is a I keep thinking, I keep, as we're talking about this, I keep thinking about Class Reunion.
Okay, sure.
It's clear they're kind of, obviously, not related in any way, and certainly not inspired by or anything.
No.
They are of a piece in that they are two different movies. You sort of rundle fly together.
Yeah.
And just Class Reunion is just so clumsy and so uninterested in really not really interested in either story very much. Just sort of taking the limpest approaches to it, where the gist seems to be, oh, isn't it funny that we combined a movie where a bunch of people get together for their high school reunion with a slasher movie, and it's like, well, not really.
You're not particularly interested in either.
Yeah, I mean, on its own merits, no, that's not very funny. You kind of got to juice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's like rom-com and combining a rom-com and a slasher movie lives or dies on how enthusiastic the creators are of the material. And that has to be both material. They have to both enjoy rom-coms and enjoy slasher movies. I got no sense that John Hughes enjoyed slasher movies. He went with a very basic knowledge. A weird guy in a mask goes around and kills half-naked people.
Yes.
And it's like, you get it on a very surface level. But there is a sort of mad technique to these things that either you get or you don't get.
Yes, and you can't say that like John Hughes isn't a funny person, but he has to paint a fucking target to hit, and in that one, it's just kind of random. He never gets around to the point of why this is all happening and why it's all happening in these 90 minutes. And none of the cast, as much as they try or don't, or the director tries or doesn't, are able to make much out of that mishmash. Whereas here, we have neither mish nor mash. These are literally complementary dishes, a duo served at the same time that managed to elevate one or another. It's the thing that, like, I hate to bring this to Top Chef, but when anyone ever presented a duo, it's like, well, if one doesn't match the other, why present both? Give me your best bite. Don't give me your best and, I tried it a different way. And that's what a lot of these mishmashes kind of add up to. Some don't. Some are able to tread that line. And I think the comedy element is what happily marries the two. Because horror and comedy are both those involuntary reactions. And so if you're able to deliver both, you're giving people the satisfaction of both. And then to add romantic comedy onto that just requires a level of technical skill not a lot of people possess.
Exactly.
And the will they or won't they has this added deadly element to it where they are often repeating to the Hard Eyes Killer, we're not actually together. But that initial kiss that they have in front of Allie's British boyfriend to show him up is enough proof of concept that they're just obsessed with the idea of them being together, regardless of whether or not they are, which is another weird meta commentary of us watching a movie of two people who are not romantically involved, but pretending to be.
Right. And the audience sort of demanding that these characters end up together,
yes.
Because, as we've experienced, from spending more than 11 seconds on the internet, fandom can be very demanding.
Yes.
And fandoms, and also enjoy taking characters and shoving them together like, a child with two Barbie dolls and now kiss.
And that should be perfect. And I should be happy with this. But when it doesn't work, you really do feel it. It's just one of those things that either is going to happen. And just because you write it on a page, it doesn't mean that it will actually happen on camera. I'm thinking back to the name of the movie is, of course, left my head. This is gonna be forever. I'm gonna have to edit the fuck out of this. It's a Will Ferrell movie with Reese Witherspoon. It is You're Cordially Invited. Okay.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yes. You're Cordially Invited was a movie I don't know was supposed to be in movie theaters, but Amazon absolutely greenlit it. It's a Nicholas Stoller movie. So there's a legit comedy director who, and I would say the majority of the movie is fun as fuck. It does that. You've seen a lot of these ancillary comedy side characters before, but it just kind of works. They're two single parents. Well, actually, Reese Witherspoon is putting on her sister's wedding, and Will Ferrell is putting on his daughter's wedding. And so they, through a weird confluence of events, they are double booked for the same island that only has one facility for you to get married, have a reception, and so on. And so they try to be nice about it, but over the course of it, their need to put on the perfect wedding causes them to disrupt the other person's wedding. And this all goes well with good jokes and very funny performances. And then in the 11th hour, the movie decides, shouldn't these two people, and I will remind the audience, it's Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon, be romantically attracted to one another? And the answer is no. No, they should not. Those are two great tastes that don't go great together in that specific circumstance.
I mean, I am admittedly not a huge rom-com fan. And someone, when they land for me, they land really good. Like, a favorite of mine is The Wedding Singer.
Sure.
But like, generally speaking, the problem is 90% of the time I'm watching these movies and thinking these people there's nothing happening between these characters. You have to, you are desperately trying to convince the audience that there is something there that is not there.
And, there have been recent examples that are better than others. But I'm really kind of hard-pressed to put any of them above this. This is just one of those movies where these two people, these two characters, these two actors, this situation, these writers, producers, and directors, and everyone who's making this move along, it all kind of works. And then on top of it, the movie has the ability to give you that trapped in your bedroom slasher sequence, and a chase sequence through a public park, and a police station siege straight out of the Terminator with a slasher. And then you have this end sequence that is straight out of urban legend with people monologuing the fuck out of things. I guess it's more Scream, but this feels directly urban legend coded in the way it's presented.
Well, when we spoke a little bit before we started recording, I said that I didn't think it was a coincidence that you have Devon Sawa who had a bit of a run as a millennial heartthrob, and then mostly by way of Final Destination, and of course he was in Casper, and then you have Jordana Brewster, who's probably more well known, and you pointed out to me from being in the Fast and Furious movies, but she was also in a 90s horror movie,
The Faculty. Yeah,
she was in The Faculty. Yeah, so I think that this is appealing very much to a millennial audience.
Yes.
Even though we're old, it appeals to us too.
Right. I think that's the proof in the pudding, is that you could put somebody like, if I don't know that Ollie would be able to appreciate all the references, both rom-com and slasher, but I think he would be entertained because the movie is inherently entertaining. It does all the things it does very well, and then has these subtle layers, these secondary flavors it adds to these individual scenes, like the aforementioned stoner couple fucking loudly in a boogie van that happens here and just keeps there are times in their monologues to one another where you forget that there's a couple fucking in the background, and then there are times where they don't remember, and then there are times they obviously hear it. And for it to play along all of those levels over the course of that dialogue heavy scene and not have it become the main focus or become some sort of American Pie-esque gag is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really is. I think that, if you are not a fan of slasher movies, I think, I mean, it is a little gory in places, but I think it's that sort of it's that sort of comical, absurd gore. Like, again, someone gets squished in a great press.
Yeah.
The hippie couple, the guy gets hit in the head with I think it's a tire iron.
Yeah.
And then his girlfriend gets her head pushed down on it. So she's got this big Looney Tunes gaping hole in her head.
A gaping hole, and her jaw is open in a way that evokes Sleepaway Camp. Again, another fucking layer, another great reference.
Yeah, and again, it's pretty gory, but it seems like silly gore.
It's not gore that is going to keep you up at night. It is cartoony, but also beautifully rendered. Nothing looks too rubbery either. There's a lot of skill going on to be able to present it on this level, and I know that we have a lot of the year left. And I do not want this movie to be left behind. This is not random junk on Netflix. They've given you a gift that you have a great 90 minutes of fun and funny to watch on your TV tonight.
Yeah, and it's also got one of my other favorite things, which is a man screaming in a comically high pitched voice. when Devon Sawa takes a machete to the crotch.
Yes, takes a machete to the crotch. This is just fucking fun, and this is what I want out of. Listen, it's nice to have the mean ones, and it's nice to have the super gory ones. It's a salad bar, it's a buffet. We all get to get what we want. And I feel like if you're only focusing on one type of horror right now, you might be missing some other things. More people should be talking about this. More people should be talking about The Monkey. These are two movies that deserve your time and attention.
Yeah, they have a similar vibe, though I will say that The Monkey is a little more cynical.
Yeah.
And the gore in that is way more over the top. Right.
That one definitely has it's just for us flavors to it where they know exactly. And if that's not your flavor, you're probably not going to like it as much. But it is the most pure version of that flavor, and that's what I enjoy about it. It's done with a plum. Any other things we need to talk about specifically about this delightful motion picture, Hard Eyes?
No, I mean, we didn't really do a deep dive into the plot. That's because there really isn't one. And in this case, that's not an insult. You have this setup of, it's a classic rom-com setup. As I said before, when are these two people who are clearly meant to be going to figure out that they're meant to be?
Yeah.
But that is all, unfolds with a serial killer on the loose.
Yeah. It primarily takes place over almost 24 hours. It's just the movie does not have a lot of things to do because it's really focused on these two characters and the plot revolves around them. So really it's a will they or won't they survive? And
yeah, and I think that another clever aspect of it is in the rom-com, the classic rom-com setup, there is usually something that's preventing them from figuring out that they're meant to be. An old flame. One of those got a job opportunity that'll take them across the country. Here it's no, because if they decide they're a couple, they might be murdered.
Right. Yeah. I
and
mean,
that's just that's such a funny and wild and weird premise.
And the fact that they managed to carry it off, it's just such a gift. And I just I want to scream from the rooftops. I want people to appreciate this because what it does is so rare. And on top of that, Gina, it gives us a real cavalcade, a very juicy batch of Choose Your Own Deathventure, where we decide of the deaths portrayed in this motion picture, if we were forced to die that way, which one would we choose and why? Up for bid. Buckle up. We got get bunked with a machete through a camera lens and into your head. Then we have an arrow to the head, compressed by a wine crusher, killed at spa. We don't know how. Stabbed to death is the looks of it, but who knows? We just know what happens at a spa. Then we have crossbow to the face, impaled by a flagpole, hacked in the nuts and slashed across the face, stabbed at the drive-in. We have another get bunked. So 2 in one movie in this boogie vein, because the tire iron goes through the guy's mouth into the van. And then the girl is grabbed by the back of her head and slammed into the top of the tire iron, which is already in a guy's face. So that might be a 2.5. I don't know. It's not quite as clean as the Carrie 2 double get bunked, but it's a 1.5. Then we have a throat slash. Someone gets a knife in the back and then slashed. Someone's hit by a car and then slashed. Stabbed through the back with a machete. Arrow through the eye and nose in an homage to a deleted scene from Friday the 13th, Part 2. Then they're burned by melting wax and they get an additional arrow to the head. And then finally, someone's killed with a steel straw under the chin, something I personally appreciate because I love a steel straw, and are decapitated by a statue. Gina, what say you?
No, I do love the clean elegance of a crossbow.
Yeah.
Like if I was a masked killer, because I am not a particularly strong person. I will probably be a wuss and do most of my killing from a distance. So I think that I personally would use a crossbow. So in turn, I think that I would prefer a crossbow to be used on me.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely the best death, the easiest death to take here is arrow to the head. The difference is, do you want to take the arrow to the head that Patrick does in the opening the cold open, or the arrow to the head that the Lyft driver gets? And I think I'm going to take Lyft driver because his head explodes so fast that you're kind of like, he's not there anymore.
Yeah,
and he got 5 stars.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
And he got 5 stars. He didn't know. He didn't know it was coming.
He did not know it was coming. He did not know it was over. Folks, please rate and review us on iTunes, or talk back to us on Spotify or YouTube. Please subscribe to us over on YouTube. Join our Patreon. We have tons of fun bonus episodes for you to listen to. We talk about movies and TV shows. We do commentaries and talkbacks in which you can ask us questions, but only if you are a Patreon subscriber. And of course, if you see us on the socials and you love the show, boost us. Give us a like. Give us a heart. Give us a whatever the fuck we're on. And we would really appreciate it. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television and pop culture on my Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com. And I am on Blue Sky and Instagram under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue. For myself and for Gina, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.